Thank God it's Friday. Welcome to the final one for the week. This is Business Morning on Channels Television. Good morning. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Well, let's start with updates from the global oil space. Oil prices rose today, tracking towards a 4.2% gain for the week, on signs that some industries have begun switching fuel from high-priced gas to oil, and on doubts that the U.S. government would release oil from its strategic reserves for now. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures climbed by 84 cents to $79.14 a barrel, while Brent crude futures jumped 80 cents to $82.75 a barrel. Both contracts rose about 1.1% yesterday as the market resumed its climb and were on track to jump 4% this week. Brent crude futures jumped 93 cents, which is 1.1%, to $82.88 a barrel. Expectations are high that nothing in the immediate future will change the significant supply and demand deficit that's in place. Overall, the week's run-up has been spurred by soaring gas prices, encouraging a switch to oil for power generation and by some industries, along with a decision by OPEC Plus to stick to plans to add only 400,000 barrels per day of supply in the month of November. And Google has announced its plan to invest $1 billion in 5 years to support digital transformation in Africa. The CEO of the U.S. tech giant, who made this known at the Google for Africa event, says that investments will include the landing of the subsea cable Ethereum, which will enable faster internet speed and lower connectivity costs. It will also include low-interest loans to help small businesses and equity investment in African startups.
Invest $1 billion in Africa over 5 years. It'll cover a range of initiatives from improving connectivity to investing in startups. These investments will support the continent's digital transformation in 4 key areas. First, enabling affordable access and building products for every African user. Second, helping businesses with their digital transformation. Third, investing in entrepreneurs to spur next-generation technologies. And fourth, supporting nonprofits working to improve lives across Africa.
Well, to other issues now, reactions have been trailing the proposed 2022 budget that was presented to the National Assembly yesterday by the President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, here are the thoughts of the Chief Executive Officer of Center for Promotion of Private Enterprise and former Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Mude Yusuf. Well, he believes that the challenge of fiscal and debt sustainability are some of the major concerns surrounding the 16.39 trillion naira spending plan. Dr. Yusuf sees the financing fiscal deficit by the central bank as well as debt service continue to exert severe pressure on government finances. He further explains that with the capital budget expected to be financed entirely from borrowing, there's high risk that deficit will exceed the budgeted threshold. He, however, recommends a review of forex policy regime to reduce distortions, alignment of CBN financing of deficit strictly to the provisions of its CBN Act, as well as finding a lasting solution to the security problems to create the environment for increased real sector activities in order to mitigate the challenges. Well, to further that discussion on the proposed budget, the changes and expectations from that budget, we have Tajuddin Ibrahim, is the head of research and strategy with Chapel Hill Denham, joining us this morning. Good to speak with you, Mr. Tajuddin. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. So the federal government's total expenditure for the coming year is projected to increase by 2.47 trillion naira from 13.98 to 16.45 trillion naira. Some of the changes that the president is asking for are in line with the newly enacted Petroleum Industry Act. What are some of the consequences of this increase in spending?
Thank you. I think what Nigerians generally should expect from that increase are positive impact on the Nigerian economy. The first thing to bear in mind is that we now have a case where the NNPC as well as the the NGC, the gas company, are now limited liability companies in the sense that they came out of the passage of the Petroleum Industry Act as entities that can now be regarded as commercial entities. So there is need for increased investment in those entities, and a need also for the country to strengthen the competitiveness of the petroleum industry as a whole. And one key way for you to strengthen the competitiveness of the industry and to also attract foreign investment is for you to invest in it locally to drive the performance of that industry. So these are the key elements that necessitated the increase in the budget by the government. We should also bear in mind that it does not apply to just 2022 alone. It applies, to the medium-term expenditure framework by the government. So it is something that will be implemented over a 3-year period to strengthen the petroleum industry, to attract investments, largely speaking, from the foreigners.
But there are also concerns that majority of our revenue goes to servicing expenditure, salaries and all those expenses. And so how do we now say, for instance, we're developing infrastructure, which should have an impact on the economy, if majority of our revenue goes into servicing expenditure?
Okay, so let us take a look at it from the following perspectives. Let's take a look at it from the revenue generation standpoint. From that standpoint, we realize that the government is currently constrained in terms of generating revenue, and that is largely speaking because of the constraints in the oil and gas sector of the economy, which has a global impact due to certain issues, particularly the COVID-19 impact on the oil and gas economy globally. That is one. So we have limited ability as a country to generate the required amount of revenue. The second element to my mind is that we have a case where we have low revenue and we have to fund the recurrent expenditure, salaries, pensions, and so on like that. So what is left, you are correct, in the revenue is low to finance, capital expenditure. So accordingly, there is need for the country to borrow. And I believe very strongly, based on what we have seen in the past, like 2-3 years ago, I believe that the current situation will be short-lived in the sense that we are battling with the pandemic-induced challenges, which is not peculiar to us alone. By the time we are over, we get over this, we should be back to normalcy in the sense of the ability of the governments to generate revenue and be able to fund capital expenditure leg of the budget. For now, there is, in my view, no way out except to borrow to fix the short-term challenges. And then when we are out of it, we should be fine to continue to rely on revenue generation going forward.
Okay, but I think a lot of people would disagree with you when you say that we're facing the challenge we're facing now is connected to the pandemic. That is true to an extent. But when you talk of the issue of insecurity, which is a major challenge in the revenue generation environment in Nigeria at this time, affecting food security, affecting manufacturing. And then also when you talk of the management of Forex, which is one of the things that Dr. Muda Yusuf said in his statement that we read just before you came on. I mean, it would seem that it's beyond the issue of COVID-19 pandemic, which the world is dealing with, but we also have our issues, the issue of insecurity, the issue of supply of Forex and management of the Forex space.
Okay, so let me go further in that case, since that has come up. Number one, we bear in mind that the pandemic issue is material, and that is why we are having a limit in terms of our crude oil production. We have the capacity to produce up to 2 million to 2 million barrels per day. But because of the issues around the pandemic, OPEC Plus agreed, and we agreed with OPEC Plus to produce only 1.51 million barrels per day. That is a substantial one. The second thing is around security. You are spot on, because we still have a case where we do not have enough security to ensure that our output of crude oil production, our output of oil, for instance, is up to like the 1.5 million quota by the OPEC Plus. So if we consider condensate, we have produced only about 1.65 million barrels per day in the first half of this year, compared to a normal level of around 1.8 million barrels per day, which we should be producing. So it speaks to the security of the oil pipelines, because they are not that secured. We continue to see leakages. We continue to also see sabotage. So security in that case is essential, and it is something that the government should look into to fix. If we move away from oil, there are other elements of revenue generation sources. We talk about the non-oil sector. We talk about the manufacturing sector. We are spot on that there are challenges around FX supply to the market, but I think these challenges most likely will fizzle out in the next couple of quarters, by the time the CBN will have supplied all the demanded dollars in the market, because now they are more equipped to supply US dollars to the market, haven't gotten $3.5 billion from the SDR relating to IMF, and also haven't issued $4 billion in Eurobond. So we expect that over the next couple of months, the CBN will supply US dollars to those that need it in the market on a genuine basis, in my view. So those should correct also over the next couple of months, I think.
All right, we'll look forward to that. But you also talked about like the non-oil sector. You talked about constraints in generating revenue. The issue of diversification of the economy has been on for a very long time, and we see the agriculture sector, we see potentials everywhere. How do you think, or what conversations should we having, or maybe even beyond the conversation? I think we've had a lot of conversations. What action should we be taking at this time to boost revenue, looking at the non-oil sector?
So I like what you said. So we should be talking about execution, and I think we've had enough of planning and strategizing. What we need is to execute. And I think in terms of execution, the country is in the right direction, in my view, because for the agri sector, for instance, what we need is financing. And I think the CBN is making efforts at supporting the sector, as we speak. The second thing, and I think which is probably a major thing that we need, is infrastructure. Infrastructure, things that will enable you to transport. So haven't solved security problem. The next is for you to provide the required infrastructure that will enable farmers to move their goods from the farm to the cities where they are needed for consumption. So if you produce much and you cannot transport them, and you do not have a good storage facility, then what you have produced are subject to going bad and becoming something that cannot be consumed. So there is need for us to fix that. And if we consider also what the government is doing around the infrastructure company, one will expect that over time all those challenges will be fixed. All that we need is to execute on those fronts, in my view.
And talking about the infrastructure, a lot of the borrowings are being connected to infrastructure. And so many people have said we need to spend our way out of recession and things like that. Are you worried about our debt stock?
So our debt stock is substantial. If you are looking at it in absolute terms, but if you take a relative view at the debt burden, what you find is the number being about 21% of the GDP. That is a global benchmark.
23. The finance minister said 23. Actually, like
okay,
at the moment it's
23%.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, so as at the moment, 23%, and that number, is below, some numbers across some other major African countries that we can easily compare Nigeria to. But my thought is that it is not a problem to borrow, but what really matters is what you do with the money that you borrow. And in this case, I strongly believe and recommend to the government that we should look to finance infrastructure with Naira as our currency instead of financing infrastructure, with foreign currency. That will further put, a downward pressure on our ability to pay, in my view, considering the, devaluation that could happen. But when we finance infrastructure using the Naira, then we eliminate, FX risk in that regard, and we will be able to move the country forward. Let me talk very briefly on Lagos State. Lagos State has been able to borrow from the, from the banks, but largely speaking from the financial market, in local currency to finance infrastructure in the state. So we should begin to look in that direction to finance infrastructure in local currency instead of in foreign currency. I think over time, we will get it right in that regard.
So another thing that it seems we haven't been talking about recently has been the performance or implementation of the budget. Fine, this is a 2022 budget, and the timeline is impressive, meeting up before the end of the year and all that. But have we really been high on implementation of the budget?
So implementation of the budget, we are high if you talk about the recurrent expenditure, but in terms of the capital expenditure, we are still, not up to 100% yet. And I think this is where the focus should be over the medium to long term. So people are saying that Nigeria wants to borrow its way out of recession. I would rather we invest our way out of recession, because when we invest today, there will be dividends of such investment over the medium to long term that will be beneficial to all Nigerians, and that can also lift the economy in terms of our growth potential, in my view.
All right, if properly implemented, what impact should this 2022 budget have on Nigerians? What should be the expectation of Nigerians when you look at the details?
Okay, so I think the areas where we should, expect impact, I wouldn't talk about the recurrent expenditure because that is natural. Government workers will get paid their salaries, and then there will be like a normalcy in that regard. But what I believe, people should watch out for are the capital expenditure leg. If we are able to complete ongoing projects by the government, some that are linked to infrastructure such as rail, for instance, we should begin to see the benefit from 2022, 2023 onward. We have been able to complete as a country some rail projects, and currently those are running. Nigerians are benefiting from them as we speak. But can we benefit and then we say that we've had the best? We may not have the best of such benefits in the short term, and I think there is need for a bit of patience on that front. Over the medium to long term, those benefits should accrue to the entire population if the government executes the capital projects in their plans, and they bring them to 100% implementation, that is when we'll be talking about a better Nigeria, in my view, over the medium to long term.
All
and
right,
the focus should be less on the recurrent expenditure, in my view.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Tajuddin Ibrahim, Head of Research at Chapel Hill, Denham, for sharing your thoughts with us on the 2022 proposed budget. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, and you too.
So we'll take a short break now. After the break, we will discuss an area which experts in the maritime industry have said has the potential to contribute 140 billion naira weekly to the Nigerian economy. Find out where that area is after the break. It's Business Morning on Channels Television. You're welcome back. Well, the Senate is asking the federal government to collaborate with the Lagos State government to ensure the relocation of tank farms from Apapa in Lagos State to other areas. This comes after the reconstruction of Oshodi-Apapa Expressway and the completion of the Apapa Port spur line of the Lagos-Ibadan Rail, all of which are efforts to deal with the congestion in the area and boost economic activities. What are his thoughts, or what are the reactions, and what is the real way forward? We have Mr. Kaide Okwefa, former Commissioner of Transport in Lagos and the then Executive Vice Chairman of Presidential Task Team on Restoration of Law and Order in Apapa, which was formed in 2019, joining us for that conversation. Good to speak to you, Mr. Okwefa.
Yeah, good morning.
Once again, it seems you're an Apapa man. Whenever we see you, we should expect conversations around that area.
I left Apapa a while.
I know. You're still connected. But what's your reaction to this request by the Senate? This is not the first time this suggestion is being put forward, the relocation of tank farms.
Thank you. Good morning. We need to put the issue in context and in a proper perspective, away from the public narratives that sometimes are not the actual. That is with regards to the current situation. In 2012 or 13, a similar decision was taken by the government, that's Lagos and federal government, to stop further approval of tank farms in Apapa area. I'm not going to say Apapa, I'll say Apapa area, because the area we are talking of is now beyond Apapa. You also have Uriade local. It's about 4 local governments involved. Now, and then the president, President Jonathan, issued an executive order that there should be no further approval or construction. That was 2012, 2013. The committee was headed by the coordinating minister for economic affairs, Okonjo-Iweala, with 4 ministers from the federal government and the deputy governor of Lagos State and 2 other commissioners, commissioner for environment, who is still the commissioner for environment, and myself, and the MD NPA, and a lot of resolutions were made. After that, the House of Reps has also made similar decision very recently. So what you see from the Senate presentation is like certain things are not being done based on those previous resolutions. And for the senators to speak, they must have been inspired by their constituents, of which I'm also one of them. And the cries of the constituents need to be also properly understood. So the issue has to be addressed in 3 ways. There is an economic angle, there is a social angle, and there is a political angle to the issue of relocation. But since the senators have decided, that the Senate have decided that there should be collaboration between Lagos State government and federal government, it is that collaboration that we should focus on. And the outcome of that collaboration should be based on those perspectives. While we are considering the economic importance of the tank farms, we must consider the political implications to the legislators from that area, as well as the social implication to the residents of that area. So for me, it's a welcome development. They are not just saying relocate, they said they should collaborate in the relocation.
Yeah, okay, because a lot of people are of the opinion that the tank farms are not the challenge in the area, that it's actually the management of movement in and out of the port.
Exactly.
So we shouldn't even be talking of the tank farms.
Exactly. That's why I said they have made their resolution, and they are not wrong. What the resolution says, a committee is being put up to look at the collaborative relationship in the location. In 2013, the decision was
to relocate to Ibeju, Lekki, where a new area has been created. Baby, that was 2013. We are now almost 10 years away. Now, beyond, as of today now, the reason why you have tank farms there is because you have a waterway. And the ship that is bringing the fuel comes, it has to go through a waterway. Now, if the pipelines are working in full condition, people are not vandalizing the tank farm, the pipeline, then you can move fuel from Atlas Roof straight to Ejigbo, straight to Imosimi.
And you don't need the trucks.
And I understand as of today, that is happening. So what you have now is that in Apapa, you have the Marine Beach area, where you have the major oil marketers, Total, Corn Oil, and the rest. I don't think there's any problem there. If you want to go to that area now, it takes you 50 minutes. It's less than 1 hour. From here, which is about 24 kilometers, it's about 50 minutes. Now, there's no problem in Ijora, Apapa, Marine Beach, up to Apapa port. There are 2 ports. The problem is on the Tinkan side. Now, there are 4 roads that needed to be fixed. We must give it to this government. They have fixed 4 of the roads now. But there is a section of the 4th road that is from Sunrise to Mile 2 that was not awarded. That has been awarded. So that is the point at which you are having what people are calling gridlock. Now, if every stakeholder manages its way.
Okay, just hold your thoughts for a minute, Mr. Okwefa. We have, yesterday the president presented the budget, the 2022 budget, to the National Assembly. Today, the finance minister is giving a breakdown of that budget. So we'll just take a couple of minutes and join the minister now to hear the breakdown that she's given, and then while the DSTV platform will continue with the minister, we'll be back here in a couple of minutes to continue with the show with Mr. Okwefa. So just let's join the minister now, the Minister of Finance, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, giving us a breakdown of the 2022 budget.
I understand he's representing his colleague, his Senate counterpart as well, and all the heads of agencies that are here, members of the diplomatic corps, members of the civil society, but a special welcome to our brothers and sisters, gentlemen of the press. Good morning. So today is another round of another opportunity that we have to interact with you and give you an overview of the fiscal outcomes, or be able to report to you on the performance of the economy in 2021, give you an update of the 2021 budget performance, and also go through very quickly the global outlook and domestic developments, and discuss with you the underlying macroeconomic assumptions, parameters, and targets for the 2022 budget, as well as give you an overview of the revenue, the expenditure, and the deficit in the 2020 budget proposal. We'll also be showing you some of the critical sectors of the economy, the allocations we have made in the proposed budget. We'll also be presenting to you the strategic revenue growth initiatives that we have been undertaking that has helped us so far to ramp up revenue, and also that will help us to do even more in the area of revenue. And there is, at the end of the day, a selection of projects in the budget by sectors that we will be leaving with you. I do hope that you will visit the website of the ministry and the budget office later on, and actually download a copy of this report for your own review. You recall that yesterday, His Excellency the President laid the 2022 budget before the National Assembly. This tradition that has evolved underscores this administration's firm commitment to sustain the return to a predictable January to December fiscal year, as well as to enact annual finance acts to facilitate the implementation of the budget. So while yesterday what was presented was the federal government budget and the budgets, along with the budget of 63 government-owned enterprises, the finance bill work we are doing is not yet complete and will be completed within the month of October. Hopefully by November we can send that also to the National Assembly. You also remember that during the course of the year, we have to pass a prepare a supplementary budget, which was costed at 982.73 billion. It was passed by the National Assembly on the 7th of July, and Mr. President assented to it, bringing the total appropriation for the 2021 budget to 14.57 trillion. That budget that we did, the supplementary budget, was necessary because we needed to make sure as a nation we have more resources to spend on security and on health. And on health specifically, we made provisions, additional provisions for the purchase of COVID-19 vaccines, as well as the rollout of COVID-19 vaccines across the country. The Nigerian economy, we all remember, lapsed into recession in the third quarter of 2020 after 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth, but promptly emerged from recession within 1 quarter by the fourth quarter of 2021. The economy since then has sustained the recovery with the Q1 year-on-year GDP growth of 0.51%, as well as the second quarter GDP report of 5.01%. This recovery was fueled by implementation of government's economic sustainability plan and also the full funding of the 2020 budget, and it helped to ease the COVID-19 induced restrictions on economic activities. The growth was mainly driven by the non-oil sector, and that's the good story, which rose by 6.71%, masking the deterioration of the oil sector, which was measured at minus 12.65%. Other non-oil sector performance include trade at 22.5%, water supply and waste management at 18.5%, ICT at 5.5%, human and health services at 4.9% growth rates. The persistent rise of inflation was halted in April 2021 after 19 consecutive months, from a high of 18.17% in March 2021. The consumer index, which measures inflation, moderated for the 4th consecutive month to 17.01% in August 2021. With this downward trend, which is expected to continue throughout the year, we should be closing 2021 at a much healthier inflation rate. We do still have high unemployment rates, and these high unemployment rates have implications for poverty incidence in the population. The NBS fourth quarter 2020 estimates put unemployment at the rate of 33% and underemployment at 22.84%. So now, to give you an overview of the 2021 fiscal outcomes, an update on the 2020 budget implementation. Sorry, this is 2021 budget implementation. The 2021 budget parameters, if you recall, include, so I'm on slide 8 now, include an oil price benchmark, which was passed in the budget at $40 per barrel, but the actual over the course of the year up to August average is $65 per barrel. Oil production was passed at 1.86 million barrels per day. The average today is 1.57 million barrels per day. Exchange rate was 379 naira to the US dollar. The current exchange rate is 410, the NAFEX rate that is 410.15 naira per dollar. Inflation was projected to close at 11.97%, but we are currently at 17.01%. Growth rate was projected to be 3.0%. We're projecting a growth rate of 5.01% for the close of 2021. So the fiscal numbers that we're going to report today are preliminary, and they will be updated as reconciliations are done on a monthly basis, and the reconciliation is ongoing until the year closes. As at the end of August 2021, federal government's retained revenue was 3.93 trillion naira. This represents 73% of the target. That is the prorated revenue target as at the end of August, not for the full year. Federal government share of all revenue was 754.20 billion. This represents 56.3% performance of the prorated target as at August 2021, while non-oil tax revenues totaling 1.15 trillion represents 115% over and above the prorated target. Companies' income tax and value-added tax collections were 547.54 billion and 235.77 billion respectively, representing 121% in the case of CIT and 148% in the case of VIT. And this is of the prorated targets. Customs collections at 338.66 billion represents 99% of the prorated target. Other revenues amounting to 1.71 trillion, of which the federal government independent revenue of 691.36 billion, while government-owned enterprises revenues was 873.52 billion. So the story here is that the revenue performance aggregate is 73%, but the fact is the non-oil revenue is performing very well above targets, while the oil and gas sector revenue is the one that is lagging behind. So slide 10 just shows you more granular numbers of the summary that I just gave. And then at slide 11 is an update on the expenditure performance of the 2021 budget as at August 2021. On the expenditure side, 8.14 trillion, representing 84%, has been utilized, and out of this amount, 9.71 trillion, that is the prorated expenditure from January to August. And this means 84% of the prorated target is the performance. This performance includes expenditure estimates of the government-owned enterprises, but this does not include project-tied loan numbers. Of the expenditure, 2.87 trillion was utilized for debt service, while 2.57 trillion was utilized for personnel costs, including pensions and gratuities. As at the end of August, 1.75 trillion naira had been expended for capital projects. Of this amount, 1.723 trillion represents 81% of the aggregate provision for MDA's capital prorated, while 36.01 billion is expenditure from government-owned enterprises. So slide 12 shows you more granular details of this performance. At slide 13 is some information that we have on the fiscal deficit financing. So you will see that we have a fiscal deficit of 4.299.
So the finance minister giving preliminary fiscal numbers of the performance of the budget for 2021, and also some of the things to expect in 2022. Of course, she did talk about the revenue performance for the year. She did talk about what the by the end of August, federal government's oil revenue was about 754.20 billion, and tax, when you talk about CIT performance, was over 100%. Some impressive figures she gave there. And of course, the government is very proud about the fact that there's been tapering of inflation, over time in this year. Well, also, like we said, we'll continue on this platform on our DSTV platform. The finance minister is still on, but you can see both on our YouTube channel, Channels Television. You can enjoy both. So over here now, we're still talking to Mr. Okwefa, and the economy of Apapa is our focus. But I think we should just take a break now. Mr. Okwefa is still here with us. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll continue with Mr. Okwefa after the break, and of course for the rest of the program on Business Morning. You're welcome back. We still have Mr. Kadi Ekpefa talking about happenings in Apapa area, as they would like to put it, not just Apapa, and of course the ports. That's the location of the port, major location of the port. So, Mr. Ekpefa, we're talking about some of the issues there, the call for relocation and the fact that perhaps it's not the tank farms that are causing the challenge in the area.
I would say, to a great extent, the road condition. The road is under construction, and there is a construction-related traffic. 2, there are issues from the port, inside the port, the operations of the port, necessitating that needs some efficiency improvement. And there is also the tank farm issues. But the tank farm issue is being managed because the Lagos state government has a continuous engagement on that issue. So I believe the resolution by the Senate is still okay. When they get to the nitty-gritty of the discussion, the technical expert will provide more insight into what to do with tank farms. And the Lagos state government, who has been bearing the brunt of managing the situation too, will be able to contribute. So we'll leave the resolution as is. Then on the issue of the congestion coming from tanker, let me tell you plainly, from Ijora side, that is the Apapa port side, you don't have problems. And you have all the major marketers, tank farms at Marine Beach, either from the trailers or from the tankers, no problem. On the other side, you have empty container return issues, which is conflicting with the tank farms along the corridor. Left for the empty container, the tankers wouldn't constitute any issue because they have a parking lot outside Apapa area, and they also have holding bay, as compelled by the regulation.
But are they really using this holding bay? Because, I mean, that's another issue.
Under the current condition, when the road is under construction and you have empty containers not fully managed from inside the port operations, everybody will be struggling for the road, which is a shared resource. Then traffic management comes in. But the road is, it's just like Lagos-Ibadan Express Road under construction. You will see some hiccups due to the construction. But by and large, I think we should allow the Senate resolution to go on. The Lagos state government is to collaborate with the federal government, a collaboration which to the best of my knowledge, is currently ongoing and which will definitely be improved upon.
But you talked about the road construction. We know that some parts of the road have been completed.
I believe we should put it at over 80% of the road.
Exactly.
And that is the beauty of the whole thing.
So
the Wharf Road is completed, Liverpool Road is completed, Creek Road is completed. The one that is under construction is just a small point. I don't think it's up to 1 kilometer.
So we shouldn't.
It's like a bottle. It's at the neck of the bottle. It's at Sunrise. They call the place Sunrise. Sunrise will take you to Kirikiri Lighter Terminal. That's another port. And the next point is My 2 interchange. So when you have a problem around that area, for whatever reason, you are going to have the problem spill over to My 2 interchange. When you affect My 2 interchange, you spill over to Lagos-Badagry Expressway. So I think it's all about managing all the
And there's the management of the empty containers.
That is the issue.
That has been a major
one. It's managing the empty container return.
Yeah, return.
That is, and that is because they pay demurrage. They are penalized for not returning. So they are not supposed to return to the port. I mean, the shipper is not supposed. It's the shipping line that is. And if the shipping line is they have big companies and they should be able to manage that. So we just need to appeal to stakeholders to stick to the rules that has been laid down by the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority and the Nigerian Ports Authority for the proper management of the terminals inside. But the Tinkham port has about, I think it should be up to 15 or more than that, terminals operating. It's not a unit terminal port. It's a multi-terminal port. Some takes container, some takes only bulk, some does car import, some moves by water. But in the last few months, things have improved. But what we are seeing now can be managed and can be controlled within 2 hours.
How?
All you need to do is to manage the construction, traffic, and manage the call-up.
So why are we not doing it if it's that easy?
That's what I'm saying. You need to get the right narrative. Sometimes what you get in the media is not the actual situation. Once
So
people
you're in
say,
the media now, so this is an opportunity to get the right one
I've
out.
said it always. What the media needs to do is not to exaggerate the existing situation. If there are congestion today and it is there tomorrow and continuously, the media needs to say it as it is and show pictures. Many of the pictures I've seen also in print medias are pictures from 2017 showing tankers on the road. No, that's not a papa. Some of these pictures are 2017 pictures.
Okay, I mean, we have been there this year a couple of times. I'm sure you're very
You see
familiar with
tankers
Olu
on
Phillips.
four lanes.
Yeah,
No,
Olu
no.
Phillips have been going there for
Olu
a
Phillips
while.
is embedded in Apapa, and he has the truth. But by and large, there are issues. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That is good for the resolution to have come, and we just need to see that.
Then there's the e-call-up system, which is supposed to have dealt with majority of this.
The e-call-up system came after the restoration of law and order. So, but it has not been fully deployed on the Tinkan side. It has been fully deployed on the Apapa side. So because of the ongoing construction of the road and some other things coming up from inside the port, and I believe the e-call-up system is addressing a lot of the other issues that needed to be addressed.
Okay.
All we need to ask people is that everybody should just learn that. And other things that are going on is the NPPM, the Nigerian Port Processes Manual that is going on between Shippers Council and the Nigerian Port. It's also helping to make the situation better.
All right, we really have to stop there. Mr. Kaide Okpefa, former Commissioner of Transport in Lagos and then Executive Vice Chairman of Presidential Task Team.
Former Executive Vice Chairman. I'm no more there.
Yes. I say former.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, the team is not even in existence anymore. You're done with your job.
Yeah, I'm definitely
yes. Of the then Executive Vice Chairman of Presidential Task Team on Restoration of Law and Order in Apapa, which was formed in 2019. Thank you so much for your time. And we certainly look for a period when this conversation will not have to hold anymore.
I'm very much available.
So let's move to the crypto space now. Not a very green Friday in the crypto market. Bitcoin may have started downside correction, but first, the global crypto market cap is up almost 1% in 24 hours, $2.30 trillion. Less movement when compared to previous 24 hours. I hope the bull run is not coming to an end. The total crypto market volume over the last 24 hours is $123.52 billion, which shows a 16.19% decrease. Total volume in DeFi is currently $16.31 billion. That's 13.21% of the total crypto market in 24-hour volume. The volume of all stablecoins is now $97.51 billion, which is 78.94% of the total crypto market in 24-hour volume, and shows there's a 0.49% decrease in Bitcoin dominance as the price stood at $54,412.51 earlier today, 70% drop in the price in 24 hours. We go to Ethereum now. It's not losing its steam so much. The price this morning was 3,588.44. That's 0.36% up, and the 24-hour volume was $17.85 billion. Well, we have Michael Naji joining us now to give us details of this movement that we see in the market. Hello, Michael. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Amy? Happy Friday.
Great, Michael. Happy Friday to you, too. Is the bull run slowing down, or is it just a Friday thing?
It's definitely just, I would think, some just dying down of volume from the trading week. It's definitely been an explosive week. You saw, comments adding to like clarity in the market. The Fed Chairman Powell last week said there would be banning cryptocurrencies, and also this week you had the SEC Chairman saying the same thing, and so that really does really help investor confidence. And so you just have a dwindling of the trading week dying down. But ultimately, the trend isn't done. So right now, we're just in an accumulation phase, and I think the quote unquote rocket ship that takes us to the moon is just getting loaded, and we're about to get off to the races, and it's about to. The phrase is melt people's faces off. because the move isn't expected by most market participants. They just aren't prepared for it in the sense that, you know, Bitcoin going $200,000 in the next 2 to 3 months isn't on everyone's horizon. But 100%, the trend is definitely upwards and much, much, much higher. So, you know, by no means is the trend dead. So we could even see 57,000 by this weekend.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's
Okay.
definitely looking good.
All right, we will look into that. So these investors who are saying that Ethereum might outgrow Bitcoin are not, they don't see it coming to pass in anytime soon.
No, for now, there's something called the Bitcoin dominance, and
Okay.
whenever Bitcoin goes up, you tend to see that Bitcoin dominance number go up. But eventually, when Bitcoin does stall and die down, there is a potential for this quote unquote the flippening to happen. But it does need Bitcoin to, you know, take off for a little bit and then cool down, and then Ethereum then comes and, you know, it fills in the gap. But, you know, I think that chance is only increases once Bitcoin has done its run, and then, you know, we can try and flip it. But until that run is done, the chance, I think, is very minimal. But once the run is done, then market participants, because of the wealth effect, try and diversify and, you know, increase their wealth and by going to other assets. And so, you know, it's not hard to see how they can, you know, double ETH. Like, we had a Bitcoin all-time high in April of last year, and in May of April of this year, and then in May of this year we had the Ethereum all-time high. So it definitely takes Bitcoin first to move, and then you'll see Ethereum. If it could flip it, it will flip it. But you're gonna have to see Bitcoin top first. But from everything you can see on chain right now, the bull run's just starting. And if you're looking for like an area where it could top out, you're looking at about between $120,000 to $160,000 as a conservative exit. A more strategic, riskier exit would be closer to 250, and anything above that. So those are just some markers to look at. But just right now, the trend is just started. We're barely just started.
Okay, the trend is just starting. Well, SEC subpoenaed both Tether and USDC earlier this week, talking about stable coins now and its regulation. Are we seeing more guardians into the regulation of its framework?
Yes, we definitely are. So we saw the move out of China where they're trying to basically expel all cryptocurrency, and they're trying to push more to their centralized currency. And the U.S. government is taking a different approach. They realize that government tends to be slow in using technology to form things. So what they've realized is the private market with the stable coins are the predominant way of actually getting people to use digital dollars. So the Fed is just subpoenaing these companies to basically help them go along their decision-making process about how to go about regulating them. And there's three options on the books now. The first one is Congress will have to create a new charter for these crypto companies that create digital dollars. And number two, after 2008 happened and there was a financial risk that almost broke the economy, there was a special committee created to assets after. And so if they look into that, they can find something to fix that. And the third option would be to basically deem stable coins as deposits,
Okay.
as bank deposits as well. And so those are the three things they could do. But the subpoena will help them inform that decision as to what to do next.
Okay, Michael, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning, and enjoy your weekend. Well, with Michael, we'll say thank you so much for being a part of the show today. It's been a great week and a good Friday. I hope you enjoy your weekend. Don't forget at 1:30, there'll be Business Incorporated. We'll bring you updates from the world of business. I'm Ini John Mekwa.